for our agenda today, we are going to be spending a bunch of time in data and discussion. We want to share with you for the first time ever kind of like what our program numbers look like and what we're doing in the higher pathways and TCU preview grants, kind of like the general overview of what our department is really doing, especially for high school partner students and staff. So we'll be looking at FAFSA trends that we're seeing across the program, full scholarship applications, and then tribal college awareness. So we'll share some data with you today and then provide you with some chances to connect with each other and share things that you're doing and what is working, what you maybe need help with, things you might have questions about. So we want today to be kind of an informal process where we share a little bit of data, and we also allow you to kind of reflect on where you're at and what you're learning in your locations with our students. After that, we'll spend the last about maybe 5 to 10 minutes or so going over end of the year grant reporting and what that looks like, as well as upcoming opportunities and events. We are providing gift cards and professional development attendance certificates for this. So we're going to be sharing this link with you. Erin, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and drop that in. This is a very short survey. I think it's maybe like 7 questions or so, just to ask you what your experience was in today's session, and to let us know that you would like a gift card and a certificate. So we'll be doing $25 e-gift cards to all partners who attend today. We're also offering them for partners who watch the recording by April 28th. So if they complete that survey by that date, we'll be sending them gift cards and certificates as well. Next slide. Just as I said, our learning targets really just allow us a chance to kind of come together as a professional learning community and talk about college readiness programming, especially as it pertains to FAFSA, the Full Circle Scholarship, and tribal college awareness. Next slide. For those of you who have applied for our grants this year, especially I think in the Higher Pathways grant, it's really apparent that we were emphasizing or trying to encourage some focused goals. It wasn't a requirement, but it's kind of the language is in there to ask partners to consider how they might work on increasing FAFSA awareness and completion for their Native students, as well as college fund scholarship awareness and completion, and increasing knowledge of tribal colleges and universities. At the beginning of this year, when we had the grant information sessions, we went over these as 3 goals we were going to work on. So we're going to show you kind of where we're at in the progress of achieving these goals now that we are nearing the end of the academic year. Next slide. Just to give you an overview of what the Higher Pathways partners look like, we have 72 unique partners in 12 states that receive the Higher Pathways grant. We also have a TCU preview grant, and a lot of the grants have a lot of overlapping programming. We often see that the TCUs that are receiving the TCU preview grant are also providing services to many of these same high schools. So we wanted to kind of look at this from the Higher Pathway side of things, but know that there's a lot of overlap between the programs. So 72 unique partners from 12 states, 58% of, or sorry, not 58, 58 high schools, 58%, I keep saying percent, 58%, sorry, 58 of our partners are high schools or school districts. 7 are TCUs. If you're not familiar with that term, TCU means tribal college or university. And then we also have 7 other tribal or educational organizations. A little breakdown of the locations that we're seeing with those 58 high schools and school districts. Some of them are BIE schools, that's Bureau of Indian Education schools. 22 of them are on reservations. 26 of them are within 60 miles of a reservation, and then 3 of them don't kind of fit in any of those categories. Next slide. If you're curious of what schools are being served, this is just a quick list. We're actually going to be sharing this PowerPoint with you after the event. So if you want to take a deeper look at it, this is the list of the 58 schools as of this year that are receiving those grants from us. Next slide. First, we're going to talk about FAFSA completions. And here's some data that I've been pulling together this spring that I wanted to share with you. We've actually not shared in what the overall program looks like before, so I'm really excited to be partnering with you. My team has been really talking about how do we share the amazing things that our partners have been achieving with us, and how do we celebrate together as partners, and how do we build that reciprocity into our programming. And so we're really excited to have this to share with you this year. So you can see that from this data table that we've been tracking both FAFSA incentives as well as total numbers that are being reported at the end of the year grant reports. The first one I want to go over is the FAFSA incentives. The higher pathways high schools, that list of 58 high schools that we just showed, last year we only had 11 FAFSA incentives. That's a $25 gift card that was awarded to one school. So we had one school participate. And this year we kind of mixed up our communication, not mixed up, we kind of changed up our communications and tried to be more strategic about starting it earlier. We actually started the FAFSA incentive program in this year. It was like in October compared to last year. I think it was around March. So you can see this huge number jump from 11 gift cards awarded to one school to 261 gift cards. That's 261 students who have completed the FAFSA from 24 schools. And 7 of those were just added in February. Looking at our FAFSA numbers, we have data that goes back to 2020, 2021, and you can see that we had 42 schools that reported 608 students completed their FAFSA. And then the year after that, 21-22, we had 702 from 30 schools. So more, even though a few less schools reported that year, we were able to actually see a jump. And we haven't collected data yet for this year, because that will be a part of the grant reports that we talk about at the end of this presentation. Those are due on May 1st. Next slide. A little bit more about FAFSA. We, as the College Fund, have really kind of stepped up our game in providing more events throughout the year to try to support FAFSA awareness and completion. Last year, we held one event. It had about 20 attendees. It's actually not surprising for us because we were coming out of the COVID pandemic. And I think at that time, we were finding a lot of reports from our partners from that year said that a lot of our students had they had Zoom fatigue. And so getting attendees that year was pretty difficult. This year, we're actually starting to see a recovery, and we're, in addition to seeing a recovery of students coming back to our online events, we also offered more. We had 3 events just this past, I would say everything was in the fall through, must have been through December. So 3 events through that fall, the fall semester, and 280 attendees showed up. And we surveyed the attendees probably, it was a couple weeks after that last event. And what we were finding is that many of our students and attendees said that yes, they are planning to complete the FAFSA, so about close to 70. And then many of them, in addition to that, had not completed the FAFSA yet after the events, but they were planning to, so 15%. So some strong numbers there. Next slide. We also asked attendees after the 3 events if our FAFSA webinars have been helpful for them. And what we're finding out is that yes, students were saying that FAFSA was helping them to understand it so that they can complete it. Most of our attendees were seniors, so this was really exciting to see that 82%. We also had some staff and parents who attended the events who also responded that yes, okay, I understand FAFSA now enough to help my my child or my student complete the FAFSA. So you can see the strong numbers and strong representation from our events this year. Next slide. We just completed a run through of all of the scholarship applicants through last week, Friday. And when we were looking at who has applied for our Full Circle Scholarship, we were also seeing strong FAFSA numbers as there as well. So 44 students who submitted scholarship applications had 40 of those students self-report that they had completed the FAFSA, and 55 students in addition to that 40 who have submitted the scholarship they're in progress, meaning they have not submitted yet, but we can see that they're working through the questions. Out of those 55 students, 27 reported that they had completed the FAFSA, compared to just 5 who reported no, and 23 who hadn't responded yet because they just hadn't gotten through to that question in the survey. Next slide. And then our final data point for FAFSA that I wanted to share with everybody is that we just conducted a Higher Pathways Partner high school and school district survey. This went out to those 58 schools who are our current year grant partners who are receiving the Higher Pathways grant. 113 of the respondents were seniors. We actually have responses from juniors and sophomores and freshmen as well, but we really wanted to focus today on the seniors and looking at their data because there's just so much data that we can share with you. Of those 113, 62% reported they had completed the FAFSA compared to 29% that said they had not. And the breakdown I thought was really interesting. So we rated them on their college readiness. In the survey, they're asked to share what level they feel that they are prepared for college, whether they plan to go or not. And the questions have the following structure or answer to them. I want to go to college and I'm ready. You can see 37% of that 113 were feeling that way, and 76% completed FAFSA. Of the students who want to go to college but they need support, about 35% of the group responded that they want to go to college, they just need some help. Maybe they have some questions still, they're still working through some things. We actually have further data that kind of drills down into like, what do we need to help you? We're not going to get into that today, but I wanted you to see the correlation with the FAFSA completions. So 60% of those had also completed the FAFSA. And then of the students that responded, I want to go to college and I'm not sure if I can, that was 13% of the group. 60% of those have still completed the FAFSA. This was like such a big win for our department. We are just really proud of the work that you guys have been doing in supporting FAFSA at your locations, because we know that this is one barrier that can sometimes be really tough for kids to overcome. We also know that typically we tend to see a correlation between students who apply for FAFSA and a positive correlation with them also eventually, attending college. So this was such a big win to see this number this year. And then 9% of our students said that they don't know if they will go to college, but still 20% of them completed the FAFSA. So I don't want to get into all the other percentages there, but we will share this slide with you. So just some things to think about in where we're at in raising FAFSA awareness and FAFSA completions. Next slide. I wanted to pause before I show any more data, because I know I've already given you a lot of data points, and just open it up to the group to ask everybody that's here today to consider, what are you doing to support FAFSA completions at your organization? The reason why I ask this is because we have a lot of wonderful partners here who have been really engaged with the College Fund in our grants. We've seen a lot of the same schools attending our FAFSAs through having watch parties of the webinars we hold throughout the year. We're also seeing schools do their own incentives. We're seeing tribal colleges also incorporate FAFSA components when they go to visit the schools. So I just wanted to open it up and find out, what are you guys doing to support FAFSA completions that you would like to share with the group? There might be some schools that are struggling with this that are either on the call today, or maybe we'll be watching later. Or what questions do you have? Feel free to drop your answers in the chat. Feel free to jump on the microphone and let us know. We'd like to hear from you. Wesley, go ahead.
Hey, Buju. I work at Recruiter Ojibwe University. I'm a retention coordinator. So we just ran our first bridge program with our high schoolers this past spring semester. And it was a great experience. However, some of the students weren't quite ready for FAFSAs. So we started a FAFSA competition, then realized some of the students were juniors and weren't ready to full-fledged students, and other students were maybe mature sophomores taking AP credit. So anyways, with that in mind, would there be any sort of opportunities for TCUs to have like a FAFSA contest, college fund for current students, or is that just more or less targeting first time ever enrolled in college kind of students?
That's such a great question, Wesley. For our TCU Preview grant, which I believe you've applied for both the Higher Pathways and the TCU Preview, the TCU Preview is not necessarily tied to just first-time students. So you are welcome to use those TCU Preview funds to incorporate FAFSA as part of what you're doing with your grant. So you can use that for incentives. You could use that for events. I've seen a lot of our tribal colleges will have planned events where they will go to the high schools, or sometimes they'll bring the high schools to them, and they'll do exploratory activities where they get to do like a campus visit, or they're learning about the campus. And then the TCUs will also roll in FAFSA components into the events that they're doing. So that would totally be a wonderful way to use your funds. And I love that question. I also like, I really appreciated how you shared about just learning where our students are at with FAFSA. This is something my team and I have been talking about. Jenna or Erin, you guys can jump in at any point. Recently, we went to the AHEC conference, and we visited one of the schools out there, and some of our team was talking about financial aid, and our students the students that we were talking with didn't necessarily understand what that meant. And so like breaking it down for them. We've actually been working on doing that even with our FAFSA events. So our first event last fall broke down, what is financial aid? Why should you consider the FAFSA, and how could this help you in your educational journey? So just really bringing it back to the basics for the students. And the students responded that they got a lot out of just that really basic overview. Thank you so much. Amy.
Hi, Sandy and Erin and Jenna. Thanks for having today. I just wanted to share, thank you for asking this question, because I think it's really pertinent to the it has always been pertinent, but even to the times right now. And there's lots of changes with the FAFSA coming up. So us working together to make sure communication is strong with students and the people helping students with FAFSA. So really appreciate this question. What I would just share is for the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, we've been working in Montana with the Montana University System. We created a survey for high school counselors in our state to allow them to share what we need to do different because times have changed so drastically in the last few years. So that was a really good step. I think we're still learning, but just as a recommendation to any other teams out there is just touching base with the individuals who work in your state directly with helping students with FAFSA. We also have been working with our MAFSA team, which is our state financial aid agency, trying to again retool and rework what we're trying to do to help students on a statewide level. So yeah, getting back in touch, that has been, we've learned a lot, and just trying to look through different avenues of helping students engage with this new process. So just some food for thought. We're learning. We're still learning. I'm excited to hear what other folks are doing too.
Does anybody else want to share things that you're doing at your district, or maybe you see a question in the chat that you'd like to answer? Thank you for responding, Ariel, and what some of the work that you're doing at the local high schools. In regards to that, with some of our tribal colleges, I've been seeing patterns where our tribal colleges will really have these great partnerships with the high schools. Like I said, like where they're going to the high schools or bringing the high schools to them with some of those grants, and having and building those relationships. And I think the relationship building is a big part of what helps with the FAFSA. As far as, there was a question, I think Jacqueline had a question on what can you do to make FAFSA fun? Just sharing from some of the grant applications that I've been receiving this year, there are a really wide variety of things that people are doing. One of our partners, I can't remember who, but they decided to have a multicultural night that was also a college readiness night, and they took their Higher Pathways grant and they used some of it for incentives, food. Food always brings people, and they actually hired a drum group to do some drumming and singing, and they had a multicultural night, and then they also provided FAFSA workshops there. So the sky is really the limit with these grants that we provide to you. We try not to give you too many restrictions on how you might use them, knowing that incentives can be a really great way to bring in students. I love that idea, Jenna. Yes, we are seeing some of our schools and TCUs provide gift cards and gas cards to be raffled for FAFSA completion. One idea that I'd like to share with our partners is that some of our schools are actually working FAFSA into their curriculum and providing students and families like time during the day to go through FAFSA. I know I was just working with somebody last week that was turning in their final FAFSA numbers to me for incentives. All right, feel free to continue to share ideas in the chat. We're going to move on to scholarships and have a very similar discussion. I'll show you what we're learning about in scholarship trends. And then we'll also ask very similar questions on scholarships as well. Erin, next slide. As far as our scholarships at the Higher Pathways high schools, that set of 58 schools that we're really tracking, we have noticed that our Our scholarships are actually going really strong. I know the numbers, it looks like it's less, but there's a couple of things I want to share with you as you look at the numbers here. Let's kind of walk you through it. So in 21-22, you can see that we had 65 high school students complete our scholarship. So it's about 53% participation of the schools that we had that year. Of the 29, there were 29 that participated of 55. In this current year, we actually have way more partners. We've gone from that 55 to 59, and we also have, in addition to that, I think last year we had about 60. Oh, it was about 59 partners above and beyond just high schools. It's like everybody, including tribal colleges, including educational organizations. We have 72 this year. So our program is growing a lot. Right now we have, as of last Friday, 51 in progress scholarship applications from 27 schools. And we have 41 completed scholarships from 24 schools, and that does include mostly current partners, but 3 previous partners are also on that list as well. So we've been tracking for this year and for last year. The things I'd like to share with you too that provides some context for this is that this is the first year that we've had unique high school scholarships for Higher Pathways partner high schools and school districts. Previously, they would just apply for our main scholarship, and if they were selected, they received funds from that general funding. We've had 2 donors this year provide scholarships just for the Higher Pathways high schools. Next year, we'd like to actually roll this out, and we're going to roll this out to more high schools, and we're going to need help from the educational organizations and the TCUs. If you have schools that you're working with that are not receiving the grant from us, but you're working with them, we'd like to consider them for eligibility next year. That's been on our wish list. We're just now working with a new database, and so we started this year with those 58 schools. So just to provide you some context, we have new scholarships this year, and we're still kind of early in the scholarship season. So the scholarships opened in February, and they will go till May 31st. So they haven't been running as long as like the FAFSA incentives. So we're not going to see those same numbers that we would see with FAFSA, since FAFSA was going on since last October. And we also tend to see students apply more in May than April. Next slide. So just to give you some ideas of kind of like what some of the overall trends are, knowing that we're still, these numbers are changing on a daily basis as we're accepting scholarship applications. Here's that breakdown again of the college readiness level that the seniors were responding to. This was the 113 seniors that completed the survey. The ones that are saying that they want to go to college and they're ready, we've only had about 5% apply. 31% have said not yet, meaning they intend to apply. They just haven't done it yet. And then in addition to that, we have about 45% who they have remarked that they have not heard of our scholarship before. This is a number that we would like to really help support you with in getting word out about our scholarships. We'll see similar numbers if you go down to the students who said, I want to go to college and I need support. So about 3% have applied for a scholarship. 25% are intending to, they just haven't done it yet. And then that same about 45 that are unfamiliar, that 45% that are unfamiliar with our scholarship. I do have some celebrations, however, for the students who are really not sure yet if they're going to go. When we look at the category, I want to go to college and I'm not sure if I can, and I don't know if I will go to college, and I have other plans, we're still seeing that some of those students they've still applied for a scholarship. They're not really sure what their plans are yet, but they're still open to the possibility of going to college. And that's just a celebration. I think it's nice to know that our students are leaving that door open. And it makes me, I'm really happy to know that they are considering that as an option. So they've put into the work, they put in the time. That's already a foot in the door. So those are the ones that I start, just so you can see some of those trends as well. All right, next slide. Same thing again. I wanted to take some time and ask the group if you have shared our scholarship. It's called the Full Circle Scholarship. If you've shared that with your students, what has that looked like, or what are you doing to share? If you haven't, that's okay. But what could we do to support that moving forward, knowing that the application's still open? Or what questions do you have? Feel free to answer in the chat. Feel free to jump on the microphone. I'll give you guys some time to think about that. In the meantime, I can jump on and share some things that we have been seeing. So earlier this spring, February 8th, we held an event for the Higher Pathways High Schools and invited them to have watch parties at their school when they attended live. And they were able to come to an hour-long presentation where we talked about the scholarship and how to apply for it. We even shared what the questions were in the essay portion and what we were kind of looking for in the responses and how to respond fully, all of those things. We actually had the majority of students that attended those events, they stated that they had gone from not knowing very much about the scholarship. We gave them a rating of, it was like 0 to 5, and they were on the 0, most of them were on the 0 to 1. I think it was about, I want to say that it was like 40 to 50%, if I remember off the top of my head. And by the end of the event, they were rating themselves at 4s and 5s, like comfortable enough to start the application, or comfortable enough where they can complete the application with minimal or no questions. So we were seeing that that event was helpful to students. Another really interesting thing was we allowed for that event students to participate by watching the recording and still be able to enter the prize drawings. And we actually bumped up our scholarship. We bumped up our attendance at the scholarship event by 50%. So we saw twice as many students show up to this event and then learn about our scholarships after. So it was really wonderful to see that. Thank you for sharing, Kelly. Kelly says that she's been hosting a scholarship application completion event at the school. Amy has commented as well. I appreciate that, Amy. Amy works for MOPSOC, has been promoting the scholarship at the Montana Tribal College fairs and also on social media. We really appreciate those of you who are sharing. One thing that we have shared out with our partners is it's okay to walk students through the scholarship during classes, or if you're a nonprofit and you're running events, it's okay to have an event and actually provide them time to prepare the essay questions and work with each other to review, like what is a good response for these essay questions. It's okay to provide them that time. It's not cheating, we promise. We actually are really excited by the schools that are actually building this into their day, into their curriculum. Thank you, Jenna, for also mentioning that tribal affiliation is something that our students have sometimes struggled with. We actually included a little bit about what to do if students need to get their tribal enrollment paperwork in our February 8th event. We're going to be sharing that recording. So if you weren't able to participate and you'd like to see what our recommendations are to help students, I would really highly recommend checking that event out as well. All right, next slide. Our third and final thing that we wanted to share with everybody is just where we're at with helping to build TCU awareness, or tribal college and university awareness. If you're not familiar with that term, we've actually been really working with our team to break down, what is a TCU for our partners and for our students, because we're finding out that sometimes the language we use is not as familiar with them as it is for us. Some fast facts I want to share in case we have partners here that are not as, maybe they're new to their position, or maybe they haven't had a chance yet to build awareness of tribal colleges themselves. I just wanted to share some fast facts. Our TCUs are some of the most affordable colleges in the nation. You can see the facts here. They tend to be on average $6,700 less than the national average. Over 80% of the students that go to those schools qualify for financial aid. And we do have locations across the United States. It's really hard to see, but it says there that 35 accredited tribal colleges and universities across the US reside at 75 campuses in 14 states. And they serve students from more than 37 states with over 200 tribes represented. And these are really great schools to consider for students, because we tend to find that they report a really high sense of belonging and cultural wellness and cultural well-being at the schools. The schools tend to focus on more than just academics. Next slide, Erin. I think I have that, a little bit of that in the next slide here. So yes, like I was saying, many of their schools are providing whole student wraparound educational supports and services and resources. Last fall, in end of November into early December, we had a TCU fair. We were learning about these amazing programs from many of these tribal colleges, where they are thinking about students in ways that mainstream schools don't always provide services, like gas cards, transportation, childcare, lots of cultural wellness activities and components. These schools are doing an amazing job at supporting tribal sovereignty. And at these schools, we do see a wide array of different degrees and majors from the 35 colleges that are accredited. Sometimes our schools know a lot about them, and we're finding out some of our newer partners, they haven't had a chance to explore that yet. So we just really want to encourage you, if you haven't yet, to check out our TCU Fair. We're going to hold one next year. We also have the recordings from the one that we held this past fall. Next slide. Erin, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Some things that we learned about our partners and our students who attended the tribal fair is that their awareness has increased just from that one event alone. From the staff, high school staff were reporting a 40% increase in knowledge on the first day of attending the tribal fair. And then a lot of the same schools attended the next day, and they rated themselves just like the student rating, from that no knowledge being 0 to a little knowledge or good knowledge, or they're having a lot of knowledge about the schools. They a 0 to 3 rating. So those 40% had gone from zeros, mostly zeros and ones, to often ones and twos on the second day, and by the third day, we were seeing a lot of threes in the responses. And there's kind of the breakdown of the students as well. So you can see that we also ask students, how much do you know about our tribal colleges? 80% of them on that first day rated themselves at no knowledge or just a little bit of knowledge. And then by the final event or post event, I kind of went through and rated if they attended all 3 days or they only attended one, kind of looked at all of the data for that. And what we were finding is post-event students were stating that only 20% felt like they had no knowledge or little knowledge, compared to 83% who now had a good understanding and or a lot of understanding of the tribal colleges. Next slide. Oh, and I forgot to put one fact in there, and that was after the event, we asked our students, how many of you are now interested or would consider going to a tribal college? And what we were seeing is before the event, most of them, they weren't sure where they were going to attend. After the event, we were seeing most students were saying, yes, I would consider a tribal college after learning about them. It was just such a celebration for students to consider that as an option. So for our final discussion, I wanted to invite our TCU representatives on the call. What can high schools and school districts do to support you as an organization? And then for the high school representatives or district representatives, what questions do you have about TCUs? And then if a third option, if neither of these questions feel like they fit you, what are you doing to support tribal college awareness at your organization? So I just wanted to invite everybody to feel free to put their answers in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand or just jump on the microphone. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey Sandy, this is Jenna. I just want to jump on, this is one of my favorite topics, talking about TCUs, as I am a TCU graduate. I received an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree at Sinte Gleshka University on my homelands on the Rosebud Indian Reservation. And I was a dual credit student from my high school. Our high schools partner with our local university, and it was an opportunity for me to be able to take, like my core basic classes before I even graduated high school. I had a couple semesters of college done already. And so, just thinking about how can high schools and TCUs collaborate and, build those relationships and partner with each other, because I know not all TCUs have the opportunity to be a dual credit school, with the higher pathway schools. And so just thinking about that, it's a really great opportunity for high school students to really take a look at their language classes and have the opportunity to take cultural classes and history classes and, things that talk about the real things that happen to Native American people. I really didn't learn about those kinds of things until I went to college at my local TCU, and we don't know the disparities and the hardships that our people really faced until you experience those classes and you actually go through the history. So
This is Juan at Salish Kootenai College. So we have 7 high schools on the reservation here, and over the last couple of years, actually, these schools have really been very receptive to us coming in and visiting with them. Alan Peel just put in a message in the chat. St. Ignatius has been great about bringing their students up to visit campus. And then the local high schools have their senior decision days, and they always make sure to invite us so we can be present when students who have chosen to come to Salish Kootenai College, that, you know, we're there with swag. And actually St. Ignatius had me get up and talk about the college a little bit. And so, yeah, I think our local high schools are starting, you know, and the reservation here, the Flathead Reservation, is a little different because we have a lot of non-tribals that live here. But the schools are really, you know, they're real receptive right now to us coming in and being a part of their campus. And when we have things here on campus, they're working to try and get interested students to come here. So I think that's kind of what we're doing here on the Flathead.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, both Jenna and Juan. Juan, I have actually a question for you. So I'm often approached by some of our newer partners that are just now learning about tribal colleges for the first time, and they sometimes ask me, what can I do as a high school representative or sometimes as a district representative to learn more about my tribal colleges that are in my area? What would you suggest for them?
I think that they need to reach out to the college. And, you know, here at SKC, it's our admissions and recruitment department. You know, if they reach out to us, and we are more than willing to invite them to campus and show them around campus and introduce them to folks, some of the key people that help students. But I think the big thing is just reaching out to the departments or to the colleges and asking to come and learn about it. You know, and even here still, we get a lot of folks, a lot of non-tribal people who are like, I didn't realize I could go to school there. I thought it, because it's a tribal college, I thought it was just tribal folks that went to school there. So, you know, I know we're working hard here at SKC to break down that mindset of it's only tribal folks that go here. You know, I think with all of our tribal colleges, if they want to get an education, we want them. So, but yeah, reach out to the tribal college. I would say start with probably the admissions department, and kind of if it's not them, they'll direct you in the right place. But yeah, contact the admission department. That's why they're there.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Kelly, for also putting something in the chat. Just reading your post here. It says, we just took our students on a college tour to tribal colleges in the Colorado, Fort Lewis College in New Mexico, Institute of American Indian Arts, Southwest Indian Polytechnic Institute, and University of New Mexico. We have another trip planned to attend United Tribes, University of South Dakota, and Haskell University. We also invite the colleges to come visit to speak with the students about the options they offer and the benefits of attending their school. I so appreciate the work that you're doing over there, and just sometimes the act of being inclusive of like, here are all the options, not just the mainstream. That can mean so much for a tribal college. I was having some of those conversations at Sitting Bull College about a year ago, and sometimes we find that our schools will tend to have posters and flyers about some of the mainstream colleges in the area, but they're not necessarily also seeing as much representation from the tribal colleges that are also in the area. So I would just like to challenge our high school and school district partners to think about, like, what does that representation look like when you are showing options? And if you need help with connecting with your tribal colleges, please feel free to reach out to Erin, Jenna, or myself. We would love to help you make those connections as well. All right, last call for any final thoughts. All right, I think with that, then we can begin to wrap up here. So Erin, if you would go to the next slide. I just wanted to end our session with a couple of reminders about the grant reports, scholarships and opportunities, and then some announcements as well. Next slide. First reminder is that the grant reports are due May 1st. Some of you have already told me that you need a little bit more time after May 1st because you have events going on in May. That's totally fine. Feel free to just let us know if May 1st is not going to work for you. The College Fund is always happy to work with you as well. There are 3 different grant reports, so I just want to caution everybody. If you don't know which one you're supposed to fill out, please feel free to reach out to Jenna or myself, and we'll direct you to the correct link. If you received the Higher Pathways grant, that first link is that 22-23 Higher Pathways report. Some of our partners have received a second extension grant. And they will need to also fill out the extension grant report there as well. So there'll be 2 reports. That second report is a lot smaller than the first because it's just kind of like a couple questions that say, what did you do to extend your programming beyond your original plan, basically. And then the third report is for TCUs. This is for the TCU preview grant. So just quick caution, as we give these links out to you, please reach out to us if you're not sure which one to fill out. We want you to be able to fill out the correct one. And then I just wanted to let you know what we do with these reports. So the reports, we're hoping to continue to share out with you as we move into next year and have data sharing with you be a more prevalent thing that happens. So that you can celebrate with us the impacts that you're having, and you can also use this to showcase with your staff and your locations what work you're doing and what you're a part of, like the bigger picture. We also use these reports for our end of the year program evaluations, and a lot of this goes really heavily into reports for our donors. We don't share individual student data, but kind of like I showed you today, kind of the trends that we're seeing, what the impact of the award is. This really helps us to advocate for the future of this program. So we really appreciate everybody who has been showing up each year, applying for our grants. Many of you guys have been also turning in your grant reports each year. Thank you so much for that. It's just so meaningful for our department to take some time and reflect on it. Some things to report on include the student and families impacted. If you have it, the Native students impacted and the total population, because some of our schools, like Juan said, are serving more than just tribal members. And we do like to report on that as well. But if some schools don't have that data, or they just have like the total population numbers, that's fine too. Same thing with FAFSA and scholarship completions, students enrolled in dual credit courses, students taking the SATs, ACTs, and then if you are a high school or school district staff member, we do ask for a list of graduating seniors, including first, last name, and date of birth. We only use that data to track the college enrollment rates. We were looking at what the college enrollment rates of our high schools are in comparison to national numbers. We do have a large data gap in the United States of how our Native students are doing, and the College Fund is really working to create advocacy for Native students. On the bottom, I did include a little note to myself to remind myself to tell you that next year we will have a new application database. This year it was on Google Forms. We are going to be using WiseHive, which is the same grant, or no, it's not grant, the same application as our scholarships. So when you see students go through and fill out the College Fund scholarship, we're going to be using that database next year. And it's actually going to streamline things where when everybody applies next year, it will save your information so that then the year after and the year after that, you will have to enter a lot less information, because we'll be able to save your information year after year. Next slide. Next year, when we start up the grant again, we will have an information session. If you're not able to attend, we'll record it. but we will make sure to walk you through how to fill out the application. It's pretty easy. I've been working on it myself with our database administrator, and we'll show you what you need to know for that. Final reminder that this is still scholarship season for us. We have our scholarship application open through May 31st. So we'd like to encourage you to consider sharing your scholarships at your locations with the students, especially if you're a high school staff member or district staff member. Feel free to walk students through the scholarship application in class. As I said earlier, it's not cheating. It's okay to take that time during class to have them complete that. Next slide. And then a couple save the date notices. We do have a scholarship webinar coming up on April 27th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I think that one got cut off there. It's funny. We will be sending out the link to this, but if you want to stay in the know about our future events, I do encourage you to not apply. I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. If you go to our College Fund main website and just scroll to the bottom, the newsletter's on the bottom there. We do regularly send out the links in that newsletter. We will also have a College as a Choice webinar that Jenna has been putting together. We're going to be inviting 9th through 12th grade students. They do not have to be in the Higher Pathways program. We are going to market it heavily to those 58 schools, but any high school student is welcome to attend. The link will be forthcoming soon, and we'd love to see our partner schools bring watch parties. We'd love to see if our organizations that are present, if you want to have a watch party and attend as one group, we would love to have you there in that capacity. We will be also having a tribal college scavenger hunt. This is going to be a virtual thing. It'll be going through the first week of May. So we'll be sending out a Google form. We're going to be offering all sorts of fun prizes. We will be promoting this on our social media pages as well. And then last but not least, we have summer conference coming up June 13th through 15th. This will go from 10 Mountain Time to about 2:30 Mountain Time for those first 2 days, and then the second day, I think it's about half of that. Next slide. Speaking of summer conference, we are offering grants of up to $10,000 to our Higher Pathways organizations. That's high schools, tribal colleges, educational organizations, tribal organizations, all of you. We would love for you to consider applying for one of these grants to host a hybrid session. And it doesn't have to be at a tribal college or high school, but a place where you can just bring students together to attend our virtual summer conference event. This money can be used to cover any expenses, including event and space rentals, staffing expenses, student family incentives, meals, transportation, whatever you need. We will share the link in a follow-up email along with all of the slides here today. These grants are on a first come first served basis while funding lasts, so I encourage you to apply as soon as possible if you are interested in this. I have been getting a lot of phone calls this week on it, so I think the grants will probably start to go pretty fast next week. All right, next slide. All right, we'll be sharing all of the links at this end of this presentation for you. But one thing I wanted to highlight are the bold recordings here. If you missed our scholarship information session and you would like to watch that, we have that link for you to watch. You can have a watch party with your students and your communities. And we also have a FAFSA overview that we did just this past, I think it was September, that we'd like to share with you as well. All right, next slide. And then we have just a few last announcements for those 58 high schools. So at this point, if you are not one of those Higher Pathways high schools, you're welcome to leave because we only need like about 2 minutes with them or so. All right, next slide. So thank you for those of you who attended today. Please be sure to fill out our survey. Thank you so much, Erin, for dropping that in the chat again. The survey is the way we know to send you a $25 gift card and a professional development certificate for attendance today. If you are watching this recording, you can also fill that out by April 28th for a gift card and certificate. All right, next slide. And then finally, the last couple of announcements just for the high schools. If you are high school attending today, and you were invited to do the survey raffle, we are about to raffle off all of the gift cards and the laptops. We actually decided that we're going to send all of the gift cards to your school. So they will be physical gift cards and a list by student emails of who to give those out to. Laptops will be sent to your schools as well. And some of our schools participated after that original deadline, so they will not be eligible for the laptop and gift card raffle, but we did offer pizza prizes to some of you as well. So we will be contacting you about the winners next week. And next slide. For our high school 58 partners, we have been doing a scholarships incentive raffle, a $25 gift card giveaway. So please feel free to continue to market that to your students. We still have the funds for that. Next slide. All right, and I think this is the last slide here. We are also offering for those high schools, if your students complete the scholarship by April 28th, we're going to be raffling off some Beats headphones as well as tablets and Bluetooth speakers for the phones. All right, that's all I have for today. So Erin, you can stop sharing. Thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you, Koyana. Koyana Puck, thank you for attending the College Fund Zoom webinar. Have a great rest of your day.